Ayan na mga kababayan, nasipa na si Tuta. Andyan na si Loren Legarda, tinawag ng Miss President mga kababayan ni Zubiri. Ibig sabihin, siya na ang bagong Senate President. Yahoo! Wala na si One Ball University. Wala na ang Tuta mga kababayan Soto. Sipa na kodita si Tuta. Oh, siya na ang tinawag na president mga kababayan. Panoorin niyo po ha. Oh, ayan. Matapos ng napakataas na break mga kababayan, suspension, bumalik ang video. Oh, andyan na. Nawala na si Tito Soto. Kundi ang nandyan mga kababayan, si Loren Legarda na.
Thank you very much, Madam President.
Madam President! Yes, yes, yo! Tupasyo! Wala na si Tuta Soto. Wala na ang one ball. Wala na ang one ball. Oh. Ayan na si Tuta. Andyan na sa likuran mga kababayan.
Nice to see you
Nakatawa na lang siya.
on the yes, session resumed already, right, Madam President?
Yes,
Si Tuta, kawawa.
session is resumed.
Thank you, Madam President. Madam President,
Madam President, at tingnan nyo, pansinin nyo mga kababayan. Puro yung mga kasamahan nila. Di ba? Yung mga bagoong ito mga kababayan. So, ibig sabihin, nasaan na yung mga pro Duterte? Wala dyan, pero napatalsik pa rin nila si Tito Soto mga kababayan.
I move that we adjourn session.
Adjourn! So, ilan ba sila? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Siyam! So, ibig sabihin, mas marami mga kababayan ang kakampi ni Loren Legarda.
Till 3 o'clock in the afternoon, Monday,
Adjourn na sila!
2026.
Ayan si Soto, oh, nakaupo na lang dyan mga kababayan. Tawawa, oh. Bumaba ka dyan.
So move, Mr. President. Madam President.
Pinicturan, oh. Pero nakatawa sila mga kababayan. At least no, hindi na si Tuta mga kababayan.
I don't see the minority here, only
Oh.
the majority
Oh.
So, this is also in cooperation with the minority.
with the minority.
Oh, in cooperation of the minority. Pero, paano nangyari ang botohan mga kababayan? Sa backdoor? Oh. Bigla na lang, Madam President na siya eh. Pero si Tuta, oh, ngiting aso. Oh.
To adjourn early.
No objections.
Walang
heard.
objection.
Session is adjourned until Monday,
3 o'clock.
February.
I-explain nyo bakit? Anong nangyari mga Tuta?
Thank you very
Pang,
much, Madam
pang,
President.
pang. Goodbye, Tuta. Goodbye, Tuta. Goodbye, Tuta. Goodbye, Tuta. Soto. So, paano na yan, mga kababayan? Buladas lang pala ni Soto ang sabi niya kanina na hindi daw interesado si Loren Legarda. Pero bakit naging ano na? Miss President na ang tawag eh. Ano pa ba yun, mga kababayan? Di ba? Maliwanag naman. Tatawagin ka bang President? Oh, Senate President. Oh, di ba? Mr. President, oh, ganyan nga ang kanilang tawag dyan mga kababayan dahil Senate President. Ito ang sabi ni Tuta kanina, oh.
Lumutang ang pangalan ni Senadora Loren Legarda sa gitna ng usap-usapang magkakaroon muli ng rigudon
Siya na
sa
nakaupo.
liderato ng Senado.
I love it! Ayan.
Ayaw sabi ko na kayo
ayaw
yung
pa niya.
Ayon yan
next
kay
na-
Senate President Tito
In fairness mga kababayan, yan si Loren Legarda. Although andyan yan sa kampo pa ni Marcos ngayon. Pero close sila ni VP Sara mga kababayan. Sa makatuwid, tinuturing ang ate ni VP Sara, ito si Loren Legarda. At isa daw yan mga kababayan sa mga hinihingan ng advices si VP Sara. So, walang dahilan para ayawan natin ito mga kababayan. Mas mabuti na ito kaysa sa Soto.
Soto.
May kumakausap daw sa inyo, ma'am? Sina Sen Alan ba?
Secret!
Daming kumakausap sa akin araw-araw.
Oh, sikreto!
Nabasa ko yung news.
Ang Tuta! Parang si Hitler ang bigote. Kawawa
Ayon yan
ka,
kay
Tuts.
Senate President Tito
Oh.
Soto. Hindi
Sabi daw niya, hindi interesado. Ano ka, siniswerte? Bakit ikaw sumasagot? Para hindi ka bababa sa pwesto. So, paano na yan, Tuta? Kung ma-impeach si Sara Duterte, hindi na ikaw ang papalit. Si Loren na. Impossible dream.
interesado si Legarda na pumalit sa kanyang pwesto bilang leader.
Ano ka, Ong? Ano ngayon? Hindi interesado pa rin. Siya na ang
ng
nakaupo.
Senado. Sabi pa ni Soto, matatag
Goodbye,
ang Senate
Tuta.
majority.
Goodbye, Tuta.
Para naman kay Senate President Pro Tempore Ping Lacson, malisyoso ang pag-uugnay kay Legarda sa umunoy tangkang pagpapalit ng leader.
Malisyoso. Malisyoso pa yan. Siya na nga. Kanina kasi itong tanghalian, mga kababayan. Kaninang tanghali.
Trato sa Senado.
Tapos ngayon, ano na ngayon? Napalitan na. Kuditan na. At eto na nga mga kababayan. May balitan niya sa News 5 mga kababayan. Sa tingin natin talagang legit na ito mga kababayan. Dahil, News 5. Senator Loren Legarda leads the Senate session. O bakit siya magli-lead mga kababayan kung hindi siya ang Senate President? In-adjourn ni Senator Loren Legarda daw mga kababayan, News 5 ha, ang sesyon sa Senado Miyerkules. Bago nito, tinawag daw siyang Madam President ni Senate Majority Leader Mig Zubiri. Oh! Madam President. Ano ba? Tatawagin bang Madam President mga kababayan kung hindi na Senate President? Sa gitna daw ito mga kababayan sa mga umuugong na balita na magkakaroon ng pagpapalit ng liderato sa Senado. Goodbye, tuta! Goodbye, tuta! Goodbye, tuta! Goodbye, tuta! Samantala, at tabayanan natin mga kababayan ha, itong updates dito.
I'm just wondering what abuse of discretionary power when it is not the president that actually approved the program fund. He signed it because he has the discretionary power to do it. But I would not even think that he forced the congressman to approve such program funds. Anyway, the title alleges abuses or abuse. But the complaint must plead facts, not only personal knowledge, but plead facts showing abuse, not merely invoke discretion. For example, the charge accuses the respondent of abuse of discretionary power over unprogrammed appropriation. But a charge is not made sufficient by a label. It must plead a recital of facts constituting the impeachable offense. I am not talking as a lawyer, but I am talking also as a logical man. You see? According to Section 25, Article 6 of the 1987 Constitution, and I quote, budget execution and disbursement operate within constitutional constraints, including limits on transfers, augmentation, and requirements that discretionary funds be disbursed only for public purposes, supported by vouchers and subject to guidelines prescribed by law. I would think that the president knows all about this, including his economic managers. And because the Constitution regulates how appropriations may be used, therefore, a charge of abuse must identify at minimum what legal constraint was breached and what act violated it. Here, binasa ko po yung lahat ng binanggit dito on the abuse of discretionary power, wala po ako nakita. No pleaded factual anchors. For example, the complaint does not allege the acts or omissions constituting the charge. On the face of the charge of abuse, Madam Chair, it fails to allege the key factual particulars that would constitute abuse, such as what unprogrammed appropriations was released or obligated, the amount and date, the project, the purpose and implementing entity, the recipient or beneficiary, and the specific constitutional statutory limitation violated. Without these particulars, sa pagkaintindi ko, the accusations remains a conclusion, not a recital of facts constituting the offense charge as required by the Gutierrez case. That's the reason why I still maintain insufficiency in substance as far as the second act of betrayal of public trust is concerned. Thank you, Madam Chair. Salamat.
Thank you, Honorable
Madam
Abante.
Chair.
Next in line
Madam
is,
Chair.
what is the pleasure of the Honorable Ko?
Madam Chair, just to quickly respond on the manifestation of Representative Abante.
All right, you're recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, in regards to a specific recital of fact on the alleged gross abuse of discretion, I would like to point to paragraph 116. It is to summarize it. And to clarify po, yung pinopoint po natin na abuse of discretionary powers is not yung approval of UA but yung release of unprogrammed appropriations. After po ng pag-sign ng budget, kailangan pa po ng mga special budgetary requests para po mailabas yung UA. And so, in the complaint, meron din pong paglista ng UA released versus approved. So, mas malaki po yung in-approve versus na nirelease, but nonetheless, tinotal po natin yan. ang na-release. So, and to recall, according to the Administrative Code and to the special provisions of 2023 GAA and 2024 GAA, kailangan po yan ng approval ng Presidente. 213.8 billion ang ni-release. And among that 213.8 billion, that's 111 billion for flood control projects. No, so yun po yung pinupunto natin na abuse of discretionary power. Hindi po yung approval that went through the Congress, pero even after ng approval, may kailangan pang special budgetary requests to be approved by the President. Yun po yung gross abuse of discretionary power. And siguro, just briefly po, on the mention of the doctrine of operative fact, we are aware na may discussion nun, but to note, under Pimentel versus House of Representatives, the court found that hindi po i-apply yung doctrine of operative fact. And dinidirect ang PhilHealth na dinidirect na ibalik sa PhilHealth yung pondo. And and hindi rin po wala rin pong basis to say na ma-absolve of liability yung mga officials because of such application, which hindi naman po ginawa in the first place. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, let me clarify.
I anticipated this.
Yeah.
Honorable
The
Rodriguez.
doctrine says that everything that is done during the time when the law or executive order is valid is under the operative fact doctrine is valid. And so, valid si Recto. Valid ang executive department because there is a law that provides that excess funds of government-owned and controlled corporation. And PhilHealth is clearly a government-owned and controlled corporation. So they are valid. And so therefore, you cannot question their act. It is now declared unconstitutional. Now, it is also the right of the Supreme Court to have it returned. But there is no responsibility of Recto. In that case, if we extend that, the President, in releasing all of those that has been approved by law, has no accountability. If you are citing Pimentel as a judicial justification of your complaint, it cannot be because the doctrine of operative fact follows. And that is why we have what we have. That's why the case against, the personal case against Recto will not prosper because of the doctrine of operative fact. Thank you.
Madam Chair.
Okay, so we will move to the next speaker, the Honorable Chua.
Maraming salamat po, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, nandito pa lamang po tayo sa second act of betrayal of public trust, abuse of discretionary power over unprogrammed appropriation. At kanina nga po, nabanggit na ito pong charge ay matatagpuan po sa page 23, paragraph 96. Sabi po dito, Respondent President Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos betrayed public trust by abusing his constitutional and statutory discretion to solely authorize the release of unprogrammed appropriation. Pero nakaligay po dito at maliwanag na ito po ay kanyang constitutional at statutory discretion. The word discretion itself ay maliwanag, hindi po ito mandatory. Ibig sabihin, hindi po niya ito kailangan gawin. Ito po ay nasa kanya pong discretion. At maliwanag po dito, paano po ang sinasabi po dito sa ating rules. If sabi dito, the requirement of substance is met if there is a recital of facts constituting the offense charge. Asan po ang offense dito kung ito po ay kanyang constitutional duty? Pangalawa, Madam Chair, sinasabi po ng ating esteemed colleague ang kanila pong basis dahil po sa ang binanggit po nilang decision ng Korte Suprema ay yung pong decision patungkol po sa PhilHealth. Pero kung titignan po ninyo dito, ito po ay sinasabi po dito sa matatagpuan sa page 24, paragraph 102. The court ruled that the executive branch act of diverting 89.9 billion from PhilHealth to fund this unprogrammed item constituted grave abuse of discretion. Pero ito po ay patungkol sa PhilHealth fund. Hindi po doon sa kabuang unprogrammed appropriations. In fact, ito pong issue sa unprogrammed appropriation ay hindi pa po ito nadidesisyonan ng Korte Suprema. Wala pa pong sinasabi ang Korte Suprema na ito'y illegal. So paano po natin sasabihin na ito ay isang offense against the President? na ang presidente, basahin lamang po natin to, wala na po tayo makikitang offense. Pangalawa po, sinasabi po nila dito, to finance the systematic corruption scheme detailed in the first act of betrayal of public trust, so forth and so on. Ito po ay purely speculative. Wala pong basis dito po na nakalagay sa second act of betrayal. Paano po ito nagamit to finance the systematic corruption? Kaya Madam Chair, sa akin pong paniniwala, by mere determination of substance, dito pa lamang po makikita po natin wala. Otherwise, kung sasabihin po natin na ito pong unprogrammed appropriation ay naabuso po ng presidente at sasabihin natin na hindi po applicable dito yung sinasabi pong doctrine of operative fact, edi sana po nakasuhan na rin po yung dating presidente nung dineklara ng korte na yung DAP ay illegal and unconstitutional. At kagaya po na nabanggit kahapon, ito pong unprogrammed appropriation, lahat po ng administrasyon as far back as 1989, pagkatapos po ng EDSA Revolution, lahat ng administrasyon, lahat ang gobyerno, taon-taon, since 1989 up to the present, lahat po ang administrasyon ay may unprogrammed appropriation. So short of saying, lahat ang naging presidente ay dapat nakasuhan din po natin. At hindi lang po ang presidente, lahat ang local chief executive, lahat ang governor, lahat ang mayor, meron din po silang lump sum appropriation. Kaya po, Madam Chair, ako po naniniwala, by mere perusal of the second act or the second ground for impeachment complaint, wala po, insufficient po ang substance. Yun lang po.
Thank you, Honorable Chua. Next in line is the Honorable Deputy Speaker Janet Garin.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Madam Chair, let me dwell into the issue on betrayal of public trust. Kasi sang-ayon sa nakikita natin, ang nakasulat base dito sa complaint is that this is basically all about unprogrammed appropriations. May I request our colleagues to endorse this impeachment complaint? When we talk about unprogrammed appropriations, saan na mga ahensya ito dumadaan and who are the final determinants of the approval and listing of such, including prioritization?
Deputy Speaker Garin wishes to raise a question.
Sa General Appropriations Act, partikular ng 2023 at 2024 na binabanggit dito sa complaint, ang sinasabi po doon ay ang paggamit ng unprogrammed appropriations ay magiging alinsunod sa Section 35, Chapter 5, Book 6 ng Administrative Code. So may explicit reference po sa special provision ng unprogrammed appropriations dito sa provision na ito. At ang sinasabi po ron na expenditures from lump sum appropriations, so ibig sabihin sa GAA mismo, sinasabi na ang unprogrammed appropriations ay isang tipo ng lump sum appropriation na covered ng provision na ito. At ang sabi ay expenditures from lump sum appropriations authorized for any purpose or for any department, office, or agency in any annual General Appropriations Act shall be made in accordance with a special budget to be approved by the President. So yun po yung proseso na tinatakda. So kung meron pong
Madam Chair, if
purpose sa
if I may-
unprogrammed appropriations, kailangan
Please
gumawa.
let the Honorable Tino finish his
Kailangan
answer.
gumawa ang kinauukulang ahensya na covered nung purpose na yon, authorized, ay nagumawa ng special budget at ito ay isusumiti sa presidente para sa kanyang approval. At sa approval lamang ng presidente, maaaring gastusin ang unprogrammed appropriations. So, presidente po ang may sole and exclusive na kapangyarihan at discretion kung ano ang maaari at hindi maaaring paggamitan ng unprogrammed appropriations.
Madam Chair,
The
let me
Honorable
go
D.S.
back
Garin.
to the answers of the Honorable Tino. Balikan po natin. while it is true that you cited a provision in the General Appropriations Act at ang pagkakaintindi mo ay it's the sole prerogative of the President, let us look at the actual process. That's why I was trying to interrupt earlier, and I apologies for that. Balikan natin. Unang-una, saan ba nanggagaling yung paglista ng unprogrammed appropriations? If the good sponsor can directly answer the specific agency or the specific agencies.
Honorable Tino.
Yung step 1.
Depende po sa purposes na nakasaad sa unprogrammed appropriations. Kung gusto nyo po, pwede nating tignan
Yeah.
ang
With due
mga
courtesy to
special
the Honorable
provisions.
Tino, if I may,
At
balik
kung-
tayo dun sa
tutuloy ko lang po,
proseso.
at kung ang purpose na tinutukoy katulad sa 2024 ay yung tinatawag na CPAG, which covers infrastructure programs.
Yeah. Madam Chair,
dadaan po, ang
Honorable Tino,
DPWH
please
po ang
allow Honorable
magpe-prepare.
Tino to finish the answer.
DPWH po, ang secretary ng DPWH ang magpe-prepare ng special budget.
Okay. Madam Chair, if I may, with due
Honorable
courtesy
Green.
to my colleague, can we answer direct to the point? Kasi gusto kong i-establish yung proseso so that I can be guided on whether there is it is sufficient in substance or not. Let's go back to the process. Ang tanungan natin, where does it emanate? And if I get it correctly from your answer, it emanates from the department. Is that right, Madam Chair?
Honorable Tino.
That is correct.
Okay. So, ibig sabihin, itong listahan ng unprogrammed appropriations, lahat na ito ay nanggagaling sa kanya-kanyang departamento. Is that correct, Madam Chair?
Po.
After the department would pencil that in, saan po siya napupunta, Madam Chair?
Honorable Tino.
Madam Chair, dadaan ito sa DBM.
Okay. And in the process of going to the Department of Budget and Management, who defends that proposed list of unprogrammed appropriations, Madam Chair?
Honorable Tino.
Mas maganda, Madam Chair, na tanungin ang mga kinauukulan dito, pero sasagot ako batay sa aking nalalaman at
Point of order,
ang
Madam
proseso
Chair.
na ito.
Sorry,
There's a point of order.
Madam Chair.
SDML Lawrence Defensor is recognized.
Let's reinstate our original rule that the members will have their own manifestations. And if ever we find this to be sufficient in substance, then we can exchange interrogation. But at this point, let's go back to our earlier rule yesterday that we can say whatever we had to say and let our individual conscience assess whether the allegations in the recital of facts constitutes an impeachable offense. So we don't have to argue back and forth.
We allow the sponsors or the endorsers to answer so long as they want. And if the speakers or the members are not willing to consider the answers, then the speakers are advised to do their manifestation by way of a speech or straight manifestation instead of raising question. Would you like to answer?
Yes, Madam Speaker, and in consideration of the manifestation of the Honorable Senior Deputy Majority Leader, isang sagot na lang po. Basta malinaw po sa proseso na itinatakda ng batas na manggagaling sa departamento ang proposal for as long as authorized under the purposes of the unprogrammed appropriations for that year. Tapos dadaan sa DBM, pero ultimately, at ito po ang pinaka-importante, ang autorisasyon ng paggamit sa unprogrammed appropriations ay sa presidente. No? Ang ibig din sabihin nito, meron din siyang kapangyarihan, kung mayroon siyang kapangyarihang mag-authorize, meron din siyang kapangyarihang hindi mag-authorize. At yun po ang isang batayan na sinasabi natin kung bakit inabuso niya ang kapangyarihang ito. Kaya po, betrayal of public trust.
Madam Chair.
Honorable Garin.
Yeah. Thank you very much, distinguished colleague, for that response. The reason why I asked that is that I wanted to be clarified because based on the complaint, it stated and it appears, and especially during the initial answers of our distinguished sponsor, tila ang naipapalabas na ang presidente ang may diskresyon or may kapangyarihan at pumili kung ano ang mapopondohan. But contrary to what I am hearing now, based on the direct answers of our distinguished colleague, the unprogrammed appropriation starts with a proposal from each department, duly vetted by the DBM, defended by the proponent, and these are the cabinet secretaries or their alter egos who are the undersecretaries, and once approved, these are included in the NEP, the National Expenditure Program. After that, it is forwarded to Congress and Senate. Kung meron mang mga dinagdag, binawas at pinalitan, this is being done because of the budget deliberations that happens between the legislative bodies and the executive offices, meaning each department. Moving forward, Madam Chair, and just to manifest, sa pagkakaintindi ko in the budget process, once the General Appropriations Act is approved, there is a list of unprogrammed appropriations, meaning it will be funded once may pondo, may savings, or may loan. And as to my understanding, it is presumed that the Department of Budget and Management follows the chronology of prioritization set forth in the GAA as approved by Congress and Senate. After which, again, when there are funds that are available, this is being carved out from the approved GAA based on the prioritizations again, after which it goes to the President for approval, which, on my understanding, Mr. Chair, is done by the technical finance people. While I agree that meddling in the unprogrammed appropriations, if indeed it is true, is wrong, I do not see the connection between the liability of the President and this allegation, simply because, example, the mention of the statement, the unprogrammed appropriations mechanism was designed specifically to fund the discretionary priorities of leaders' allocations. This is a vague accusation that has been left unproven, and how will the President know, handling a very big country, know the individual request if indeed it is true? Next, Madam Chair, it can set a precedence for future actions because, again, the inaction of the President to approve or to sign the request of the DBM that was carved out from the prioritization as stated in the General Appropriations Act might be misconstrued as he is being remiss of his duty, because that is expected to have passed through the proper channels, considering that, again, prioritization and listing emanated from the end user, the department, duly vetted by several technical people, culminating before Congress and Senate and going back to the DBM for implementation. In other words, Madam Chair, much as I wanted to ask questions because I really wanted to be clarified, but with due courtesy to the manifestation of our good Senior Deputy Majority Leader, let me just state it clearly. Unang-una, sino ang nag-request? Ito yung iba-ibang mga departamento. Sino ang nagtatanong kung ito ba ay kailangan o hindi? The technical people of the Department of Budget and Management who are career people. Hindi nga ito yung executive, hindi ito yung secretaries. After that, it goes to the cabinet, and the cabinet endorses that to the president. And then it becomes the National Expenditure Program, dumadaan ng Kongreso, dumadaan ng Senado, nagkakaroon ng sagutan ang legislatura at eksekutiba. After the approval of that GAA, kung saan nakasaad doon yung 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and my understanding, Madam Chair, is the chronology is followed. So kung ang presidente ngayon ay isa-isa yang titingnan, that will set for a precedence by us giving the signal that the president is supposed to be the technical financial determinant of all of these factors. In other words, Madam Chair, mali yung sumobra masyado yung unprogrammed appropriations, if indeed that is true. However, I find it unfair to blame it on the president, because we, as members of Congress, should also have taken a proactive stand in policing, in asking the cabinet secretaries, and this is precisely the reason, Madam Chair, I'm just looking out of the balcony. May I request my distinguished colleagues that we should activate the oversight committees in Congress so that whatever requests on program appropriations that the cabinet secretaries are putting forward should also be vetted, especially the impact and the prioritization. Kasi yung pasunod-sunod na numero nun galing sa proponent, nasa budget, at ina-approve, andun na lang sa pinakahuli, what the President usually does is synonymous to a ministerial duty, allowing the technical people and the executive people on the ground to apply what has been approved by many aspects in our government. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Madam Speaker, Madam Chair. Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Diaz-Guerin. The Honorable Tino is recognized.
Kailangan ko lang pong tumugon kasi mukhang meron pong basic na misunderstanding ang kagalang-galang na Deputy Speaker Garin sa aligasyon dito sa ikalawang bahagi. No? Kasi parang ang intindi niya na ang abuso ng diskresyon ng Pangulo ay naganap during budget preparation, yung paghahanda ng NEP. Pero hindi po. Ang tinutukoy po natin dito ay abuso ng diskresyon ng Pangulo during budget execution, sa paggastos na po ng budget, hindi na po sa preparasyon. No? Kaya hindi po natin kine-question dito to raise to also engage with the point earlier raised by several other representatives. Hindi po natin kine-question dito yung Act of Congress na nag-approve ng unprogrammed appropriations. Ang kine-question po natin yung pagpapatupad ng Pangulo. At ang dinidiin po natin, ayon sa batas, sole and exclusive ang kapangyarihan ng Pangulo dito. Bakit po ganun ang batas? Bakit binibigay sa Pangulo ang sole discretion to authorize the use of unprogrammed appropriations? Dahil lump sum po siya. Inaprubahan ng Kongreso ang unprogrammed appropriations na meron lamang general purposes pero walang line item na magtutukoy kung ano-anong mga proyekto ang nasa ilalim ng mga purposes nito. Lump sum po yun. No? Kaya nga po, tinakda talaga sa admin code na kailangan kung gagastusin ng unprogrammed fund na lump sum, kailangan may direct authorization ng Pangulo. Dahil sa mata ng batas, siya na ang final check and balance dito. Kaya may responsibilidad siya na tiyakin na yung paggagamitan ng unprogrammed appropriations ay matino at totoong proyekto na magsisilbi talaga sa interes ng mamamayan at hindi lamang ghost, hindi lamang kung ano-anong proyekto na pagkikitaan lamang. At yun po ang sinasabi nating abuso ng discretion. Kaya nga, inugnay po natin ang pagpahintulot niya, ang failure niya to exercise proper discretion. Kaya naipakita na rin na yung marami sa mga tumanggap ng proyekto na pinondohan ng unprogrammed appropriations ay ngayon may kaso sa ombudsman, mga contractors na katulad ng SunWest at Silverwolves, among others. Yun po. So, Madam Chair, mukhang hindi yata naiintindihan ng ilan kung ano yung aligasyon dito sa
With all
complaint.
due respect
Madam
to
Chair.
Diaz-Guerin and the Honorable Tino, we have provided both parties ample opportunity to ventilate their respective arguments and views. We will be terminating your discussions on this point and we will be moving to the next speaker.
Madam Chair, can I have a last recap to review?
If I allow you for the last recap, Diaz-Guerin, will Honorable Tino request again for another recap?
It depends. Madam Chair.
With the indulgence of both parties, we are terminating the discussion of your contrary views on this point.
Madam Chair, just a very quick 1-minute manifestation, just for the record.
The Deputy Speaker is recognized.
Yeah. Madam Chair, just to manifest, hindi po totoong hindi ko naiintindihan ang budget process. Yes, it's a lump sum allocation, but there is an accompanying list enumerating the prioritization and the numbering of the programs. Ang listahan ng mga proyekto, because this has to be corrected, because people listening might think that it's another pork barrel. While it's considered a lump sum, kaakibat doon ang listahan ng mga proyekto na dapat pondohan. And what I am saying, Madam Chair, we cannot set a precedence that will put our government in a jeopardy dahil wala nang gagalaw kung sinasabi natin ang presidente ang dapat maghimay, tumingin at tingnan ang technical at pinansyal na aspeto ng bawat proyekto. In summary, Madam Chair, yes, the authorization is mandated by law to come from the President. But that signature comes only at a point where the Cabinet, the DBM, Senate, and Congress has finished all the vetting process. And he approves based on the knowledge that it is needed, it is the priority, and he does that commensurate to the chronological listing submitted and attached to the General Appropriations Act. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
That is the last. Would you
Madam
like
Chair.
to make your last recap?
Madam Chair,
In the interest
I will
of
not
due process.
reply to that, Madam Chair.
So there ends your discussion. Let's move to the next speaker. The Honorable Eming Pascual is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, ito hindi lang para sa atin, sa komiting ito o sa kongresong ito, para na din sa maintindihan ng buong Pilipinas. Ng sambayan ng Pilipinong nanonood sa atin ngayon. Tama po na tinatalakay at pinag-aaralan nating mabuti ang mga issues sa impeachment complaint na ito. Pero dapat din po na ang ating pag-aaral ay dahil sa ebidensya at hindi dapat batay sa spekulasyon o opinyon lamang ng kahit na sinong tao. Matapos ko pong basahin at pag-aralan ang mga nakasaad, ang mga basihan ng impeachment complaint ay naalaman ko na sa kabuuan ay wala pong matibay na ebidensya dito. Puro hearsay at sariling opinion lamang. Ayun ang naging basihan ng impeachment complaint. Sa sinasabing partisipasyon sa kickback ng ating Pangulo ay wala po kong makitang matibay na ebidensya. Puro hearsay lang po ang opinion at reklamo dito. Sa sinasabing issue sa katiwalian ng Pangulo ukol sa hindi pagbito sa program appropriation na nakalista sa national budget ay wala din po kung makitang sapat na ebidensya na magpapatunay na may nasabing katiwalian dito. Tama po ang sinabi kanina ni Congressman Joel Chua. Meron pong constitutional discretion ang lahat ng executive kung dapat siya magbito o hindi. Sino-sino po ba ang mga executive? Yan po ang Pangulo ng Pilipinas, ang gobernador, ang mayor, maging ang kapitan ng barangay. Ako bilang dating mayor sa aming lungsod, hindi po ako nagbibito. Depende po sa amin. Tama din na sinabi ni Congressman Joel Chua kanina, magbuhat noong 1989 pagkatapos ng EDSA Revolution. Naging tradisyon na po ito. Ang unprogrammed appropriations na ito. Eh di dapat po marami ng presidenteng natanggal. Kanina, ang sabi ni Congressman Egay Erice, kung pipigilan ng komiting ito ang pag-usad ng investigasyon, ano ang magiging imahe ng Kamara? Meron daw po tayong pinagtatakpan dito. Para sa akin, hindi po. Hindi tayo papangit ang imahe sa Pilipinas sapagkat ang komiting ito, dapat po tumingin tayo sa tibay ng ebidensya. Hindi sa tibay ng video o ng mga news clippings. Halimbawa po, para sa kaalaman ng mga tao sa Pilipinas, ang dating Congressman Saldico, ginamit na ebidensya para sa impeachment complaint. Nasaan siya? Yung video clippings niya na hindi naman niya sinumpaan dito, hindi yung authenticate na siya talaga yung nagsasalita na yon. Paano po natin tatanggapin dito? Para sa akin, yung second offense po ng unprogrammed appropriations, napakalinaw po para sa akin, insufficient in substance. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Pascual. Last speaker for the second offense is the Honorable Brian Po.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and to also recap everything. I want to point out para sa mga kasama natin dito at para sa mga viewers natin that though controversial, I think it's understood that it has not been, or unprogrammed funds has not been deemed as illegal, unlike other budgetary measures in the past, like the DAP or the PDAF, which the Supreme Court ruled on, and it changed the way we did our budgetary process. So now, it no longer exists in the way we implement our budget, but this shows an evolution of the budgetary process. As of the moment, ang unprogrammed funds po has not been deemed as illegal, which is why the wording of this complaint specifies the authorization of the release of funds. However, authorizing the release of funds in and of itself is not abuse, and it is not abusive. And it is very difficult to prove that there was a bad intention in the authorization of the release of the funds. The abuse or the alleged abuse that we are discovering in the hearings that we are conducting is in the implementation, Madam Chair. And the President himself is not directly involved in the bidding process for these projects. And therefore, it's hard to say that the President is involved in that abuse or the alleged abuse. Another point in this ground is the point on circumventing congressional oversight. Madam Chair, unprogrammed funds do not circumvent congressional oversight. Yes, it is our way of giving the executive branch leeway in case there are unforeseen expenses in the future. However, it is not without guidelines that come first from Congress, as which was said by our Deputy Speaker earlier. In the 2025 unprogrammed funds, there were certain items that were signaled as okay by Congress for unprogrammed funds to be used. Government infrastructure, GOCCs, foreign-assisted projects, risk management, etc. In the 2026 unprogrammed funds, the priority shifted because of the complaints of our kababayans. It shifted because of the concerns raised by the minority and other groups. So the shift ended up focusing more on foreign-assisted projects, risk management, and AFP modernization with some provisions vetoed. The point here being, Madam Chair, and what I want to highlight is it went through a congressional process. It was approved by Congress, and it was reacted to in the succeeding budget process, meaning there is still a level of congressional oversight which takes place over unprogrammed funds, which is why for me, while it is more specific in its approach towards the unprogrammed funds, specifying the authorization, it is very hard for me to see a grave abuse of power and a betrayal of public trust based solely on the authorization of a release, based on the fact that the abuse that we have seen takes place in implementation, and there is a level of congressional oversight, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Po. This is in
Yes, Madam
response
Chair,
to the manifestation of the Honorable Po.
This is just a short manifestation
Honorable
to follow
Ilago.
through on the earlier point of information made by Representative Reneco.
All right. Before we proceed to our third and last offense, Honorable Ilago.
Yes, Madam Chair. Earlier on, we'd like to clarify the version of the General Appropriations Act. The unprogrammed appropriations part presented by the Representative T. No? Kung anong taon po ito? Tama po ba ito ay 2025, JA?
Correct. It's 2025.
Okay. We just like to inform Madam Chair that what was cited in the verified impeachment complaint against President Marcos Jr. was the 2024 JAA and not the 2025 JAA.
You mean it's 2024 only?
Yes. That's all, Madam Chair.
Honorable T.
NAGAA 2024 also states the very same provisions in the GAA 24, except with the additional paragraph 1D in GAA 20. But as to the paragraph 1A, 1B, and 1C, they are the same with GAA 2025. For clarity only, Madam Chair.
Honorable Ilago.
To state for the record on the matter of bad faith as an element po dun sa betrayal of public trust as alleged by the complainants. Paragraph 114, pages 26 to 27, respondent personally signed off on a system that number 1, bypassed rigorous planning and technical vetting. Number 2, funneled billions to favored contractors. Number 3, resulted in 421 confirmed ghost projects and thousands of substandard structures. And number 4, left Filipino communities more vulnerable to flooding than before.
All right. So that concludes our deliberation on the second offense. We will now proceed to the third offense. Please allow the chair to read. Third act of betrayal of public trust. Direct personal involvement in budgetary insertions and kickback schemes. We are now eliciting the opinions and comments of the members of the Justice Committee.
Madam Chair, may I
The
be
Honorable Dean
recognized?
Jokno.
The third charge in the Massa et al. Complaint, Madam Chair, alleges that President Marcos betrayed the public trust by personally and directly ordering the insertion of at least 100 billion pesos worth of anomalous flood control projects and other infrastructure projects into the 2025 GAA, and also receiving kickbacks from these projects. Ibig po sabihin ng involved po dito ang mismong direktang pagkakasangkot kay Pangulong Marcos. To support this charge, the complaint alleges that the quote-unquote Saldico confession confirmed the President's personal and direct involvement. At this stage, Madam Chair, we are not yet looking into the truth of these allegations, but rather under the threshold requirement, we simply assume that these allegations are true for the purpose of determining whether the complaint is sufficient in substance. And I respectfully submit that given that standard, that these allegations are assumed to be true, the complaint, insofar as the third ground is concerned, does satisfy the threshold standard of sufficiency in substance. Ako po ay naniniwala na dapat humarap si Saldico dito po sa atin para malaman na ma-cross-examine ng mga members ng komite at mahusgahan siya, hindi lang ng mga mambabatas kundi ng sambayan ng Pilipino. Kung talagang totoo ang sinasabi niya o may laman ang sinasabi niya. I respectfully submit, Madam Chair, that we should proceed to the next stage of the proceedings, at least insofar as this ground is concerned. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Jokno. Any other member who wishes to make a manifestation on the third offense?
Madam Chair,
The Honorable Dilima.
I support the view, I concur with the view of the Honorable Representative Chel Jokno about the third.
Honorable Dilima, kindly speak closer to the microphone.
Thank you. I support and concur with the view of the Honorable Representative Chel Jokno with respect to the third ground. Again, it's direct personal involvement in budgetary insertions and kickbacks schemes. Sa tingin ko po, itong third ground ang pinakamalakas. Because if take a look at the allegations of the complaint, lalo na yung tungkol sa mga claims o mga sinasabi through a video ng dating representative and chair of the Appropriations Committee, it would seem, if hypothetically admitted, meron talagang impeachable offense. Napakarami ng mga sinasabi niya. Ganon din yung pag-cite ng mga testimony ni Yusek Bernardo and yung tungkol naman po sa Cabral files. Katulad po ng sinabi ni Representative Jokno, hindi po natin sinasabi na totoo na o paniniwalaan o credible yung mga sinabi na yon ng dating Representative Saldico sa video. At dapat talaga bumalik siya dito at sabihin niya under oath yung mga claims niya. Napakarami po, starting from paragraphs 40 up to 51. Imagine. Ko alleged that the instructions to accommodate the insertions came directly from President Marcos Jr. himself. Ko stated that DBM Secretary Amena Mina Pangandaman called him during bicameral conference committee deliberations in 2024 and relayed, quote, katatapos lang ng meeting nila ni Pangulo at may instructions na mag-insert o magpasok ng 100 billion worth of projects. In subsequent video statements released on November 15 and 16 and November 24,
Madam Chair, can we ask
26,
Congressman Dilima
2025.
to please adjust her microphone?
Kindly speak closer to the microphone, Honorable Dilima.
Salamat po. First, sa paragraph 41, may na-skip ako kanina. Former Undersecretary Bersamin, Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin's nephew, confirmed that the President directed according to Ko. Then Speaker Romualdez told Ko, when he immediately called the former Speaker after Bersamin's confirmation, what the President wants, he gets. Days later, Pangandaman and then Undersecretary Bersamin met with Ko and Romualdez at Aguada Building in Malacanang, etc. Meron sinasabi dito about a brown leather bag. In subsequent video statements released on November 15 and 16 and November 24 and 26, Ko provided additional details. He displayed photographs of suitcases allegedly containing cash delivered to then Speaker Romualdez and President Marcos. He denied receiving money himself, although hindi ho ata nakapaniwala, stating all the insertions went to the President and to Romualdez and that he merely facilitated deliveries. He described the delivery system. DPWH District Engineer Henry Alcantara's people would transfer cash to COSMEN, who coordinated with Speaker Romualdez's staff, Member Jocelyn Sereno for delivery to the Speaker's residences, etc., etc. Napakaraming factual allegations. Maniniwala ba tayo kay Ko? Kailangan po niyang bumalik dito para i-affirm niya under oath itong mga allegations. And we cannot simply dismiss them, set them aside, simply because he's now a fugitive from justice. Hindi natin gusto na fugitive from justice siya. kailangan harapin niya yung mga pananagutan din niya bilang Appropriations Committee Chair and i-affirm under oath yung mga sinasabi niya. In addition to the 100 billion in insertions, ang isa po sa mga allegations, PBBM directed the insertion of another 50 billion. On December 2, 2024, 200 million was allegedly delivered, allegation lang po ito, was delivered to the PBBM's Forbes House. On December 5, 2024, another 800 million was delivered to the same house. Yusek Jose Cadiz delivered these sums to PBBM's house. That's an allegation. Another 8 billion in cash was delivered by DPWH Yusek Roberto Bernardo to PBBM through Yusek Olaivar and Adrian Bersamin. These allegations by themselves are enough to establish the gravity of the charge so as to constitute the impeachable offense of betrayal of public trust, and of course, graft and corruption. When the impeachable official commits graft and corruption, necessarily he betrays public trust. This is the so-called nexus that is required for the Justice Committee to find an impeachment complaint sufficient in substance. Hindi pa po ito evidentiary. Hindi pa ho natin kailangan humarap dito si Saldico ngayon sa hearing na ito. But in subsequent hearings, kapag maging sufficient in substance itong complaint, the second complaint, pag yung ating desisyon by majority vote ito ay sufficient, then we will require him to appear. Kung hindi siya mag-appear, hindi natin papansinin yung mga allegation niya. But right now, there are allegations. Bernardo, and then yung sa Cabral files. That's my point, Madam Chair. Hindi pa ito ang proceeding para patunayan kung totoo lahat yung mga kagimbal-gimbal na sinabi ng former Finance Appropriations Committee Chair. May tamang panahon para dyan. But hindi natin pwedeng isarado ang mata natin dito sa mga factual allegations. Sufficient factual allegations. The third ground, to me, is the strongest ground among the three grounds. Dahil may mga allegasyon na hindi ko, again, kailangan ko po talagang ulitin, hindi ko pa po sinasabi na naniniwala ako sa mga allegasyon. Pero gusto kong malaman kung totoo. At yun siguro ang gusto ng taong bayan, malaman. Totoo ba yung mga sinasabi ni Saldico, ni Yusek Bernardo na nag-appear na sa Senado? Yun lang po ang punto. If the Justice Committee is to abide by its mandate and follow its own rules, the sufficiency and gravity of those factual allegations, including the others, in the complaint, and the nexus that they establish with the impeachment ground charge, which is betrayal of public trust. Kasi kung totoo mga yon, that is definitely and unquestionably betrayal of public trust. It necessarily calls for a finding of sufficiency in substance. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable De Lima. The Honorable Keith Flores is recognized.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, a perusal of the complaint would probably show that the third ground is probably the strongest. And I would like to agree with Congresswoman De Lima that it is the strongest and may have a complete recital of facts about an impeachable offense. But we have to go back to the verification again, Madam Chair, that the information contained in the impeachment complaint must be true and correct based on their personal knowledge and on authentic documents. We already know that former Congressman Saldico is not here and would probably not be able to validate the statements made on the video posted on social media. What then would stop any other person who is outside our jurisdiction from making statements against any of the impeachable officers that may implicate them in an impeachable offense and us continue proceeding with proceedings like this? It would just put them in a situation where indefensible because they could not cross-examine any of the witnesses who made those videos or maybe statements like that. But then again, that may have been the strongest ground in the impeachment complaint filed by the Makabayan. No? But it still cannot be substantiated, Madam Chair. It would be a total waste of time if we proceed with that, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair,
The Honorable Tino.
as was pointed out, and it is in the complaint, yes, there is a recitation of facts based on the statements made by Zaldico, but that is not the sole basis of the charge that the President directly participated in insertions and kickbacks. There is also cited the testimony, the sworn testimony of Yusek Roberto Bernardo. And in this case, he is not somewhere outside the country, he is right here. And he has appeared numerous times before the Senate at pwedeng-pwede pong ipatawag dito dahil siya rin, kumbaga, nag-confirm, nag-corroborate ang sinabi ni Zaldico sa sinabi ni Yusek Bernardo. No? Kaya po, nananatili na merong malinaw na factual, na recitation of facts na nakabatay sa public records, including sworn testimony, and therefore, may sufficiency in substance po ang pangatlong bahagi na ito na nagsasabing direktang inutos ng Pangulo ang 100 billion insertion sa 2025 budget at tumanggap ng kickback mula dito ayon mismo sa testimony ni Yusek Bernardo. Sufficient informed by the substance. Thank you.
Statements made by Undersecretary Bernardo, but I do not remember any of the statement made by Yusek Bernardo directly linking the President to any of the acts mentioned. It may be corroborative of the statements of Paul, but I just reset the time. I've never heard of Yusek saying directly that it was the President who told him, it was the President who received it, it was the President who directed it. It was always those who are the questions. So, with that alone, it would be very difficult to impute that crime with individual offense to the President himself because there are other people that are involved in the discussions made by Yusek Bernardo, Madam Chair. Just a very brief.
Verification of the complaint. The verification requirement states that the allegations therein are true and correct based on personal knowledge and based on authentic records and documents. The basis, the evidentiary basis of presidential involvement, personal, is Zaldico confession. Zaldico confession was made and published in a social media platform, ostensibly made outside of the Philippines, not based on authentic records. Second, Madam Chair, Roberto Bernardo testimony hypothetically admits that it was delivered to the office of the Executive Secretary, not to the office of the President. When we claim personal involvement, it's the Executive Secretary, even if we hypothetically admit that, because Bernardo testified in the Senate. Thirdly, Madam Chair, Cabral file. Until now, authenticity is being questioned. Even Secretary Vince Dizon denied the existence of any Cabral file. So this goes against the very basic requirement of the impeachment complaint as to form, which has to be verified. So that will be all, Mr. Chair. Thank you very much.
Mr. Chairman.
Representative De Lima first, before I recognize you.
Just a very brief comment about the contention earlier of the Honorable Representative Flores, the acting presiding officer now, na mahirap na sasama natin dito yung cause allegations or cause accusations dahil there's no opportunity to cross-examine him since he's not here. He's a fugitive from justice. All that the committee have to do is to issue the subpoena, summon him, and then give the chance, give an opportunity for him, the accuser, kung talagang seryoso siya, should end his fugitive from justice status. And pinapangatawan niya yung kanyang mga sinasabi by saying it under oath. Hindi ko sinasabi na credible siya. Gusto ko lang marinig sa kanya at gusto natin siyang i-cross-examine para hopefully lumabas talaga ang totoo. Yan po ang punto. Allegations, factual allegations are here right before our very eyes. Nasa complaint. We cannot ignore them. Yun lang po.
Thank you, Representative De Lima. Congressman Abante?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I just would like to, I do not agree with the decision of the Supreme Court in dismissing the impeachment case against Vice President Sara. But at this point in time, in this impeachment proceeding against PBBM, I would like to agree with the statement of Justice Marvin Leonen. And I would like to quote what he said. He said, impeachment should never be abused to maintain the hegemonic dominance of greed by shaming those who occupy high government positions into preventing them into doing what they were sworn to do. This is why impeachment has been designed so that it is not merely a political process initiated by mere allegations, sabi niya, or by perceived public acclaim, shaped by the propagandistic effect of timed press releases or a responsible viral post on social media. Now, that is the statement of the Senior Associate Justice Marvic Leonen. At this point, Mr. Chair, as we talk about this impeachment of PBBM, I would rather agree with the statement of Associate Justice Marvic Leonen. Kanina po, palaging binabanggit yung hypothetical. Hindi ko alam kung naunawaan ng ordinaryo mamamayan natin ang ibig sabihin yan. But I would like to give a description of the meaning of the word hypothetical. It means imagine, suppose, or based on a suggested idea or theory rather than reality. Therefore, as I conclude, Mr. Chair, this discussion today, naniniwala po ako, all charges given here are speculative. They are not only allegations as admitted even by the respondent. They are allegations, but they are speculative and therefore they are also hearsay. And therefore, they are highly hypothetical. And therefore, the statement of Justice Marvic Leonen goes in tandem with the kind of impeachment that we are now doing against the President of the Republic. And therefore, to me, that is insufficiency of substance. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Honorable Abante. If there are no other members aside from the Honorable Po, then I wish to pronounce that we are about to end the deliberation. The Honorable Honorable Brian Po, and then Honorable Chua, and then Honorable Erice, one after the other. You're recognized.
Madam Chair, thank you for recognizing me. We cannot ignore these allegations, but they are exactly that. They are allegations po. We must allow the justice system to be able to conduct its investigations. No? We've had Infracom, we've had Blue Ribbon, we've had ICI, and if we move forward with this in substance, we will have another hearing yet again and invite the same stakeholders. The problem with doing so would be that you would also be taking away time from the investigation teams to conduct their investigations and file the proper cases. If the purpose of this is due process and to further justice and transparency, would it not be best to leave it to the DOJ and the Ombudsman to continue their mandate and actually continue with their investigation and their cases without being stifled with another hearing? But beyond that, let's also look at it on the grounds of what new information may come forward in a succeeding hearing should we give credence to the substance of this ground. Technically speaking, Madam Chair, if more cases are filed by the DOJ and the Ombudsman in the future, that would give more grounds for a healthier debate on impeachment. But as it stands, the investigation process has just begun for many of those who have been implicated in the previous hearings. So, Madam Chair, as it stands, it feels that the substance currently... is subject to debate still. I feel that there's more that can be done if we trust the justice system that we currently have and trust the mandate of the DOJ and the Ombudsman. Just my 2 cents for the committee, Madam Chair.
Thank you. The Honorable Chua.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, while we have to admit that may point din naman po yung ating kasama, si Congressman Laila De Lima. But, Madam Chair, we have to also consider yung sinasabi po kanina ni Congressman Fortes, which is, I think, very logical din po dahil from the very beginning, kung may intention naman po si Congressman Saldico na makipag-ugnayan at makipagtulungan po sa atin, kahit naman po hindi siya pumunta dito, he could have sworn before the embassy kung nasaan man po siya ngayon. But the fact na wala naman po siyang sinasubmit, and in fact, mag-issue man po tayo ng invitation sa kanya, meron na nga rin po siyang outstanding warrant. Kung tama po yung pagkakaalam ko, meron din po siyang outstanding warrant. So, ibig sabihin, wala po talaga itong intention na makipagtulungan dito o magpakita sa atin. So, this will be an exercise in futility kung sa kanya lamang po tayo aasa. At yung pong sa sinasabi pong Cabral files, the only person who can authenticate that document, patay na po si Yusek Cabral. So, doon naman po sa claim ni Yusek Bernardo, wala naman po doon binabanggit or direct link na masasabi po natin na binabanggit about the President. So, having said that, tingin ko po, kulang pa rin po talaga ito dahil maliwanag naman po, kailangan po talaga authenticated ang document or may personal knowledge po. That is only my view, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Next in line is the Honorable Erice.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Inuulit ko po na naniniwala po ako na may sufficient basis, may sufficient substance ang nasabing complaint ng Lisa Masa Group. At naniniwala po ako na napatunayan nila sa kanilang mga manifestations na tuwiran po na ito lang ang paraan natin para mapanagot ang mga impeachable officials. At ito po yung ating Pangulo. Hindi natin sinasabing guilty na ang Pangulo, ang sinasabi lang po natin may batayan para tayo ay magpatuloy ng investigasyon dito sa community na ito. Factual po yung kanilang mga sinasabing mga pangyayari. Ito po ay may malaking epekto na nangyari sa ating bansa dahil sa pagpayag ng Pangulo, pagpapabaya ng Pangulo sa 3 budget, nanakaw po yung pondo natin, napunta sa mga flood control projects. At sa palagay ko po ay napatunayan nila yung na meron po talagang substance yung kanilang reklamo. Yung usapin po ng substance ay kasama po sa regulations sa rules and regulations natin. Yung parameters po ng determination ng substance ay maliwanag ayon sa ating rules. At ayoko po sana mangyari, pero kung basta na lang po natin babaliwalain yung substance na ito, maaari na naman pong makarating ito sa Korte Suprema. Maaari pong makarating muli ito sa Korte Suprema sapagkat ito po ay ang batayan dito ay yung nakasunod ba ang committee na ito sa rules and regulations ng impeachment process. Salamat po.
Thank you, Honorable Erice. While we value the significance of the statement, which sounds like a closing statement, we wish to remind the members of the Justice Committee that we are on the deliberation of the 3rd offense, that is direct personal involvement in budgetary insertions and kickback schemes. Now we recognize the Honorable Rodriguez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The third act of betrayal of public trust is stated on page 27, which says the more important words here are direct personal involvement in budgetary insertions and kickback schemes. Madam Chair, if you look at the particulars, there are 3 evidentiary streams that they have said, which is part of the recital of facts.